The way casinos were looted in this case was unique and unlike anything before. This entire cheating was carried out mostly through women. And this strange method forced casinos all across America to change their security systems. The mastermind behind this scam made almost $16 million. And surprisingly, this mastermind was nothing more than a locksmith. Yet he managed to open those machines which were thought impossible to unlock. This story teaches us that if a person refuses to give up, there is nothing they cannot achieve. And this man did something so extraordinary that American casinos still remember his name. The story begins on July 4, 1997, when some guards in a Las Vegas casino were watching CCTV footage. Suddenly, a woman appeared on the camera. She walked up to a slot machine and began to play. Within moments, the winning lights flashed, the bells rang, and this woman had just won a $3.7 million jackpot. Casino security did not pay much attention. After all, gamblers won in casinos every day. They assumed this woman was just another lucky winner. But their assumption was completely wrong. The guards had no idea that this jackpot wasn't won by luck, it was stolen. It was the result of perfect planning and cheating. And the mastermind behind all this was a man named Dennis Nikrasch. For the last 20 years, Dennis had been running this scam. He looted millions of dollars from Las Vegas casinos, without guns, without violence. His method was simple, yet genius. Right in front of security cameras, Dennis would tamper with slot machines. Later, women from his team would enter the casinos and play those machines. And every time, they won the jackpot. Casinos knew they were losing money. But they had no clue how. They never saw anyone force entry, never caught anyone cheating, and never suspected anyone. This scam later became known as Las Vegas's greatest cheating scam. Something no one had ever seen or even heard of before. The story of Dennis actually began far away from Las Vegas, in Chicago, 10 years earlier. There lived a man named Dennis who worked as a locksmith. Dennis had noticed something. It was easy to enter a casino, but winning there was nearly impossible. The slot machines inside casinos were designed in such a way that no matter who played, in the end, the casino always won. Back in 1961, Chicago police arrested a 20-year-old man and put him in a police van. That man was none other than Dennis. The reason for his arrest was his unusual talent. He could glance at any key just once and remember its exact shape. Using this skill, he had been making duplicate keys for months for the Genovese crime family. One of the most powerful mafia families in America. With these fake keys, the mob looted houses, jewelry stores, and cars. Dennis always got a share of the profit. For some time, this cycle of thefts continued across Chicago. But one night, a thief was caught by police. During interrogation, he revealed everything. That he worked for the Genovese crime family. And that Dennis was the one making fake keys for them. The police couldn't go directly after the Genovese family. So instead, they arrested Dennis. During questioning, the police offered him a deal. If he cooperated and revealed the names of the crime family members, he would be released. But Dennis knew very well, cooperating with the police meant death. If he betrayed the Genovese family, they would have him disappeared. And no one would ever know whether he was alive or dead. On the other hand, if he stayed silent, he would spend many years in prison, losing his youth behind bars. Between these two choices, death or prison, Dennis had to decide. Finally, he chose silence. He refused to say anything to the police. For the Genovese crime family, loyalty was everything. And because of his loyalty, Dennis's respect in their eyes only grew stronger. But Dennis paid a heavy price for this loyalty. Because he did not cooperate, the court sentenced him to 10 years in prison. He spent the best years of his youth behind bars. And during those 10 years, he realized one thing. From now on, he would never reveal his special talent to anyone. From now on, he would work completely alone. After 10 years, Dennis was finally released. By then, the year was 1970. He needed a fresh start. Dennis decided he would not stay in Chicago anymore. So, he moved to Las Vegas. And from here, his life took the turn that made him the greatest casino scammer of all time. Upon arriving in Las Vegas, Dennis changed his surname. From Dennis Andrew, he became Dennis Nikrasch. He wanted to make money from casinos, but not through gambling. His eyes were fixed only on slot machines. He began visiting different casinos. Everywhere he looked, slot machines stood in rows, all filled with coins. To Dennis, they were nothing but ordinary machines, created by humans, fitted with simple locks. And he knew he could unlock them. But he needed a way to do it inside a casino without being noticed. So, Dennis bought a second-hand slot machine and brought it home. There, he dismantled the machine part by part, studying it closely to understand how it worked. Within a few days, he figured out the design of slot machines. Back then, slot machines were completely mechanical. To win a jackpot, all the reels had to stop at the same combination. Dennis discovered a way to control those reels. But there was one problem: the alarm system. Inside every slot machine, an alarm was fitted. If anyone other than casino security tried to open it, the alarm would start ringing within just 20 seconds. Now, Dennis began working on the combinations and the alarm timing. He practiced again and again. And within 2 weeks, he was ready. He could now open a machine, disable the alarm, adjust the reels, and lock it back again, all within 15 seconds. Once prepared, Dennis targeted a small casino for his first job. He walked in and moved toward a slot machine that was placed in a corner, with no players nearby. At first, he blended in with other players and tourists, so that no one suspected him. Then, when the moment was right, he smoothly opened the slot machine, disabled the alarm, adjusted the reels, and locked it back. A few minutes later, a player sat down at that very slot machine. He pulled the lever, and instantly won the jackpot. Dennis was thrilled with his first success. No one in the casino suspected a thing. But before going after bigger jackpots, he continued practicing his trick again and again. And each time, it worked perfectly. Every time, some player would end up winning an amount from the machine. Meanwhile, Dennis kept winning continuously, and casinos were losing thousands of dollars. But they had no idea they were being cheated and robbed. The most shocking thing was that, within the next 3 years, Dennis managed to steal $10 million from casinos. And the casinos had no answer to how they were losing money. On checking, no tampering was ever visible in the slot machines. Their locks were intact, and even the cameras revealed nothing suspicious. But as they say, no crime is perfect. And the same happened with Dennis. In 1986, Dennis made a mistake. He returned to the same casino he had looted many times before. He walked toward an empty slot machine, just as he always did. He opened the machine, disabled the alarm, adjusted the reels, and began to close it again. But this time, someone was watching. A new security guard noticed Dennis while he was closing the machine. For the first time, Dennis was caught red-handed. As soon as he was caught, the police were informed. They arrived immediately and arrested him. And just like that, Dennis was back behind prison bars. Years passed while Dennis was in jail. Meanwhile, Las Vegas casinos were changing. The mechanical slot machines were being replaced with electronic ones, machines that were almost impossible to tamper with. Inside prison, Dennis kept thinking, if he ever got out, he would have to invent a new cheating method. Something no one had ever seen or imagined before. By 1990, Dennis was released from prison. But when he came out, he saw that the machines he had once mastered had now been replaced with electronic slot machines. These machines had no locks, no reels. Instead, They had digital screens that worked entirely on software and algorithms. At first, Dennis was worried. But he did not give up. He decided to learn and understand these machines too. Just like before, he rented a house and set up a workshop in its garage. Then, he bought several electronic slot machines and began working on them. He spent hours with the machines, studying every circuit board and microchip carefully. And soon, he realized that these slot machines worked completely on software. There was a small chip inside each slot machine. That chip decided whether a player would win or lose. And Dennis knew, if he could control this chip, he could control winning and losing. But Dennis was no computer engineer. This challenge was very difficult for him. So, he decided he needed a partner. Someone strong in computer technology, someone he could trust. For this, Dennis contacted his old associate, Eugene Bulgarino. Eugene was already wealthy, highly skilled in electronics, and most importantly, completely trustworthy. Together, Dennis and Eugene began working on slot machines in his garage. After months of effort, they finally built a device. It was very small, easy to hide, and simple to operate. When attached to the motherboard of a slot machine, it rewrote the chip's programming. As a result, the reels always stopped on the jackpot number. But there was still one problem. To attach this device, Dennis had to open the slot machine. Something nearly impossible to do inside a casino. Yet Dennis came up with a solution. Since cameras watched everyone at all times, Dennis decided to form a team. The team's job was simple. Whenever Dennis opened a machine, they would surround him, blocking the camera's view. To the cameras, it would look like just a group of players hanging around a slot machine. So, Dennis tested his plan in a busy casino. He stood at a machine, his team gathered around him, and hidden in that circle, Dennis quietly opened the machine. He attached the device and locked it back again. Minutes later, a woman from his team sat at the same slot machine. She spun the wheel, and hit the jackpot. The trick worked flawlessly. The casino didn't suspect a thing. After their first success, Dennis and his team began targeting casinos one after another. They repeated the same trick everywhere, and jackpots worth thousands to millions of dollars kept falling into their hands. By 1997, they were ready for their biggest jackpot yet. At Harrah's Casino. This time, Dennis chose a high-limit slot machine with a jackpot worth $3.7 million. As always, his team surrounded him carefully, shielding him from cameras. The machine was tampered with, and minutes later, a female member of the team sat down. She spun the wheel. And won $3.7 million. The whole casino erupted in celebration for the lucky winner. Dennis quietly blended into the crowd. He had just pulled off the biggest jackpot of his life. But while Harrah's Casino was celebrating, far away in Phoenix, something happened that would ruin Dennis forever. One of Dennis's team members was arrested for another crime. During interrogation, when police gave him the choice between prison or cooperation, he chose to cooperate. He told police everything, Dennis's name, his methods, and the casinos he planned to target. Meanwhile, Dennis remained unaware. He was busy planning his next heist worth $7 million. But now, the FBI was on his trail. And then, the unthinkable happened. On the morning of June 18, 1998, Dennis was jolted awake by a loud knock on his door. Before he could react, the FBI broke it down, stormed inside, pinned him to the ground, and arrested him. They searched every corner of his house. They found everything they needed: slot machines, casino blueprints, and most importantly, the device he used to rig machines. Dennis remained silent. He knew, it was all over. Within 2 days, the FBI arrested the rest of his team as well, including his partner Eugene. The empire Dennis had built for years collapsed in an instant. During interrogation, the FBI offered Dennis a deal. If he cooperated and explained how he rigged the machines, they would reduce his sentence. Dennis had no choice. He revealed everything. The exact way he tampered with slot machines to loot casinos. When Dennis demonstrated the method in front of FBI agents, they couldn't believe their eyes. His cheating left no trace. That was why casinos could never catch him. In December 1998, Dennis was presented in court. He was charged with conspiracy, money laundering, and casino fraud. Because of his cooperation with the FBI, his sentence was reduced from 20 years to just 5 years. On March 5, 1999, Dennis was sentenced and sent to federal prison. Considering how many years he had looted casinos, the punishment was light. Dennis's story shook Las Vegas casinos to their core. Soon, all casinos formed a union and made changes to ensure such scams would never happen again. By 2004, after serving his sentence, Dennis was released. But by then, every Las Vegas casino had put him in the black book. That meant Dennis was banned for life. If he ever stepped foot in a casino again, he would be immediately arrested and sentenced. Eventually, Dennis left Las Vegas forever and moved to California. There, he changed his name back to Dennis McAndrew, the surname he had used before becoming Dennis Nikrasch. Meanwhile, Las Vegas casinos upgraded their security even further. Slot machines were redesigned with stronger software and made tamper-proof. More surveillance cameras were installed, covering every corner. And security teams were specially trained to spot and stop cheating. Dennis's scams had set a benchmark for casinos. Every slot machine built after that was designed with his tricks in mind, to make sure no other Dennis could loot them again. In 2010, Dennis passed away quietly, leaving behind the legacy of one of history's greatest cheaters. Yet, casinos and regulators still remember him. Sometimes, they still tell his story, reminding everyone that crimes like this always end in prison. Today, his cheating method cannot be repeated. Casinos are far too strict and secure. But it came at a very heavy cost. Dennis's story left casinos with one haunting question. What if another Dennis appears someday? Because Dennis had proven one thing. Security is only perfect until a clever man comes along to break it. How did you like this story? Tell me in the comments. Like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.